Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Megan Check. I'm from Oakland. Sorry. I watched last week's meeting online, and something that I think contributed to some of the chaos is that hardly anyone was actually talking about the curriculum itself. If I understand correctly, this vote isn't about any of the anecdotes from other towns or states or specific books or teachers that supposedly taught like this, that, or the other thing. It's not about graduate level theory courses. It's not about any of those things. It's about the proposed curriculum. I've looked at it, and I, honest to God, can't find anything that would inspire this much outrage. It encourages discussion about diversity and equity with the stated goal to, among other things, celebrate differences, share different experiences, highlight and promote diversity, and encourage a safe, welcoming, and inclusive learning environment for all students. I do not understand how you could object to that. How is that controversial? A lot of opportunities for these discussions have already existed in the curriculum. A discussion of mice and men is not going to be complete without talking about economic inequality. The quintessential high school English book is To Kill a Mockingbird. How are you going to read that book and not talk about race? By the way, the identity theme for English 1 has nothing to do with identity politics or trying to tell your children who to be. It's been in place at least since 2013 when I took that course. And it's about young people finding themselves as they are growing up, their coming of age stories, just to clarify that. Mentioning diverse figures in a different field like science is also important. On a basic level, it's important for people to have heroes like themselves. It's important for young women to have examples of women who've changed the world. It's important for young people of all different racial backgrounds to know they are a part of and they have contributed to this country too. These are people who have for a long time been left out of the narrative because the narrative was written by people with the most power in society at the time. Science classes often bring in a discussion about the scientific process and how our understanding of something like DNA or atoms have developed. There are people of all different backgrounds who have played an important part in those discoveries, people who fit into the curriculum and whose inclusion would go a long way toward showing people the diversity that already exists in our history, and toward people giving heroes like themselves. The base level courses in the RIH district are called college prep courses, the purpose of which is to prepare graduates for college, whether they go or not. If you want to prepare students for college, diversity, equity, and inclusion has to be a part of that. Any college your kids will go to will talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion on day one. My time here did not prepare me to fully engage in those discussions, and I had to catch up to some of my peers. I graduated Indian Hills in 2017, by the way. Whatever students do when they leave the district, they're going to include
Time is up. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Ayler, and I'm from Oakland. I'm here to talk about masks. As stated in Executive Order 251, quote, all public, private, and parochial preschool programs and elementary and secondary schools include charter and Renaissance schools, collectively school districts, must maintain a policy regarding mandatory use of masks by staff, student, and visitors in the indoor portion of the school district premises, unquote. Executive Order 251 also clarifies that individuals seeking a medical exemption from mask wearing pursuant to certain exemptions outlined in Executive Order 251 will be required to produce a written documentation from a medical professional to support that exemption. Self-attestation and parental attestations are not sufficient. This is not my opinion. This is within the executive order. And 3, the State Director of Emergency Management, who is the Superintendent of State Police, shall have the discretion to make additions, amendments, clarifications, exemptions, exclusions to the terms of this order, not Board of Education members. State executive orders are based on existing constitutional or statutory powers of the governor and do not require any action by the state legislature to take effect. As I refer, according to New Jersey state law, NJSA A9-49, quote, "The bill requires violators of executive orders, rules, and regulations to be charged with violations." Madam President, you are to abide by the New Jersey Code of Ethics for school board members. As stated in Code of Ethics A, I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures, unquote. A complaint should and will be filed with the Ethics Commission of New Jersey in response to your ability to uphold your obligations as a school board member to ensure the safety and uphold and preserve the mission and goals of our school and local community. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, stop. She has a right to say what she has a right to say. Go ahead.
Robin Gonzalez, Oakland, New Jersey. I think that in listening to everyone here, there's something we actually, as an entire room, can agree on, that name-calling and bullying is not acceptable to any board member, to anybody in the audience, and I think we can all agree on that. Everybody can clap. I was here last week at the meeting and I was shocked at the name-calling of everybody and the racism and bigotry that was expressed in this community. I heard words playing the Jew card. We aren't racist because we elected a black Muslim for 8 years. I can't reason with that. I can't reason with bigotry. If I could, I would have those speakers take the DEI curriculum as parents. But since I can't, I will quote the law instead. Bill A4454 was signed into law in New Jersey. The law requires that we promote economic diversity, equity, inclusion, tolerance, and belonging in connection with gender and sexual orientation, race and ethnicity, disabilities, and religious tolerance. The courses will need to examine the impact that unconscious bias and economic disparities have at both an individual level and on society as a whole, and it will be for the 2021-22 school year. That is the law. Now, there's been subjective commentary from some board members that they don't believe the proposed curriculum encourages enough critical thinking. That's a subjective opinion and perhaps a stall tactic, but it's not enough to defeat a law because the school district needs to follow the law. This is very simple. Pass the curriculum, show that you support the community, including the 700 signatories to a Flow Forward petition supporting it. And this board needs to support everybody in the community. Now, regarding masks, there is a law that requires masks in public schools, period. I spoke with the officers outside and I asked them, is this indeed the law? And they said yes. And I said, why isn't it being enforced? And they said, because Mr. Lamb and the president of the board specifically told them not to enforce the mask mandate law. And they said, if there is an issue, please take it up with the board. So, Madam President, I know you cannot respond to me, but I do want to bring this up, and I expect the same respect I gave to everyone else. I expect that the law will be enforced because you do not have the power to tell a police officer not to enforce the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rachel Spina, Oakland. I was one of the original 5 people who helped jumpstart getting Pride recognized in Oakland. In fact, it was...
Oh, look, hey, all right, stop. Can you reset for this young lady, please? And can you speak louder? I'm
Sure.
sorry. Thank you.
Rachel Spina, Oakland. I was one of the original 5 people who helped jumpstart getting Pride recognized in Oakland. In fact, it was at that mayor and council meeting that I came out as bisexual for the first time. I was 31. This past year, I founded our Rainbow Shelf, which is a queer book club where we exclusively read books by and about the LGBTQ community. The first book we read was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, and there's a quote in there that I think applies, and that's, "Hate is loud, but I think you'll learn it's because it's only a few people shouting, desperate to be heard. You might not ever be able to change their minds, but so long as you remember you're not alone, you will overcome." I also want to share some statistics with you that I feel directly illustrate why DEI is important to the curriculum. These are pulled from the GSLEN School Climate Survey from 2019, and when I reference students, it's LGBTQ students. 59.1% of students felt unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation, 42.5% because of their gender expression, and 37.4% because of their gender. 98.8% of students heard gay used in a negative way at school, and 91.8% reported that they felt distressed because of this language. 95.2% of students heard other types of homophobic remarks. 91.8% of students heard negative remarks about gender expression. 87.4% of students heard negative remarks specifically about transgender people. 52.4% of students reported hearing homophobic remarks from their teachers or other school staff, and 66.7% of students reported hearing negative remarks about gender expression from teachers or other school staff. 86.3% of students experienced harassment or assault based on personal characteristics, including sexual orientation, gender expression, gender, actual or perceived religion, actual or perceived race and ethnicity, and actual or perceived disability. 59.1% of students reported personally experiencing LGBTQ-related discriminatory policies or practices at school. And those students who experienced LGBTQ-related discrimination at school were nearly 3 times as likely to have missed school, had lower GPAs, were more likely to be disciplined in school, had lower self-esteem, and higher levels of depression. These statistics, which represent students from all 50 states and Washington, D.C., paint a very different picture than tolerance and compassion being taught in the home. These statistics explain why I did not feel safe coming out when I was younger. Even now, in my 30s, I've experienced homophobic language and attacks from community members older than me and some parents. Tell me again how diversity, equity, and inclusion are actively being taught in the home. This community, like so many others across the country, does not foster a safe, understanding, or loving environment for people like me. I have seen and heard many people say, I support the LGBTQ community, and I'm here to tell you that's a lie. I support the LGBTQ community is a full sentence. Tacking a but on the end negates any support. And to anybody who's listening who's like me, I really hope that you understand that there are people fighting for you so you can continue to live as your authentic self. Thank you.
Thank you.